Hello web design fans, web designers, and developers. My name is Hunter Gerses, and you're about to go deep into HTML, CSS, JavaScript, SQL, PHP, and jQuery. Without further ado, let's get this video started. In this video today, you're here because you want to learn HTML, or also known as Hypertext Markup Language. This language is highly productive because it creates websites like Google. A good place to learn HTML would be heading over to w3schools.com. This is where I'm going to be showing you everything I'm going to be doing today and stuff like that. I only have 15 minutes, let's get this video started. Now over here, if you come to HTML, when you go to that website, you can see HTML is basically just text. Text and images are the two things that make up HTML. In this project, I'm going to be showing you an example of HTML using a code editor. This code editor is called Sublime Text. You can get it by going to sublimetext.com-3, and once you're there, you can download it right here. Sublime Text 3 is what it's called. It's a great text editor because it really lets you fully get all the details like Python, JavaScript. I don't know what that is yet, but you'll learn eventually down the road in your career. Now, let me tell you a little story about who I am. I've been coding now for 7 years, almost 8, and I've been building websites. And I basically build out amazing websites. You want to check out my website at cheapdawagowebdesign.com. When you visit it, it's probably going to be different, but depending on when you visit this. So here's my website. You can see I have these two columns here, custom made. It's all made with, this is all HTML, and then the color and all that is CSS. So let's get started in building our first ever custom HTML or CSS document, shall we? So let's go and move on. Alright, so let's talk about what HTML is. Now HTML started when it was in the younger ages, so it's pretty old right now if you want to ask yourself. But this new thing called HTML5 is looks like this. HTML6 is coming out very soon, I heard. But let's talk about HTML5. HTML5 just stands for new content. But it makes making websites so much easier than it was like 10 years ago. So let's learn how to make an HTML website. So you can learn HTML right here, and we're going to code right inside of this little application. Also known as our main. Alright, so I went ahead and expanded my screen out so you can see it. I hope I didn't make it smaller. But here it is. We're going to use our code editor. You can get the code editor by clicking try it yourself. Now this is a heading. There's so many things in HTML. But guess what? In order for you to learn HTML, we got to get rid of everything. Oh no, you're probably freaking out right now. Don't be. I'm going to explain you everything you need to know about HTML. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Markup language, just spelled like that. And Hypertext Markup Language. Basically, all it means is it's links, text, markup, and it's a programming language. That's all it means. And we'll get into CSS later. But HTML starts off with a less than, and it can end with a slash, and then a greater than sign. That's how the tags end. So practice that right now. Less than, and then we'll practice a greater than. So every HTML document must start off with a less than, an exclamation mark, and a capital doc type. You spell out the word doc type, and then in all lowercase type out HTML. This is telling the web browser that you're going to be using the HTML format and not the CSS format. After that, hit the enter button. As you see, refresh, nothing happens over here. Because all this is saying, hey look, get HTML5. You could also put the HTML4 on here, but I highly suggest you don't do that. Now we're going to create another line. Again, we'll always start with less than, and type in our tag HTML. This is how you start off your HTML document. We're going to start off with the head as well. Head, so HTML works like this. You have your head, you have a body, and you have a foot, just like on your body of a human being. You have all those items. So we're going to go ahead and close the head. Now here's a new thing you're learning. This little dash, backslash right here, is how you And now when we're in the HTML, we're able to quickly access the head, which is this is where most of your things go. It's a very important section of building a website, because if you don't have a section in your code, then basically your website don't work. It's where the title goes, your fave icon, which is this little icon up here. Show you this little icon up here in the corner. There's your title. So let's get started and tighten out what our title's gonna be. So let's say we'll hit the spacebar one time, and then we're gonna create a title tag. It looks something like this. Again, we're gonna start with an opening, greater than and less than and greater than sign. And then we're gonna have a less than sign, a backslash, and then the word again, title, with a greater than sign. In between here is where we're gonna say our title. We're gonna say hello. Alright, that doesn't do anything over here because it's not part of any of the code. So let's get on encoding, shall we? Now let's open up our body. Body is where we write all our code. And remember, we must end our body or this won't work. Enter key. Now let's start off with a H1. H1 is a heading. You can do it like this. Backslash H1. Between the brackets, you can say anything you want. In this case, I'm going to say hello world. Now all you got to do is click the see results, and there it is. Hello world. There are 6 H1s in HTML. H2 is a little bit smaller. You can do it by just entering small. And then we have an H3. Smaller. And then we have an H4. Smaller. And then we have, finally, we have H6, which is the smallest. So you can see there's your 6 H1s, H2, H3. But those are the things that you get with HTML and CSS. So now that you learned headings, let's go over some of HTML's tags. HTML5 has over 65 tags. But don't worry, you'll remember them all by a couple of weeks. Okay, the first tag that HTML comes with is a new tag called header. A header looks something like this. Now these classes are meant for adding CSS styles, so in order to add the header, you need to add some CSS. Let's do that now. If I add a CSS or a style tag looks something like this. This is called CSS, or cascading style sheets. In here, I'm going to call the word header. I'm going to give it a background color. If you don't know what any of this means right now, you don't have to. Of red, give it a width of 100%, and give it a height of 50 pixels. As you can see over here, my header has now come into play. This tag is saying, hey look, this is going to be the header of my website. As you can see, a red box has appeared because the header tag is a tag. Usually what goes in between this is if you know what comes next after header, well you probably don't yet, but it would be a nav. So now you just type in the word nav and you end the nav. Everything must end with a backslash thing. In a moment, we're going to take a look at something. So now, with my CSS, I'll call in the word nav. Give it a color. What? Blue. And then let's give it a width of 100%. And give it a height of 10 pixels. That's where your nav goes. See, it goes on top, up here. In the next section, we're going to look at going over some things that are different than these tags. Alright, so I went ahead and cleared the screen out. So all you should see now is a blank screen. We're going to go ahead and look at a tag that is different and ends with a backslash and then close it. Actually, no backslashes. When you create forms, the form tags are ended like this. So if we were to create a form is how you create a little input area. So let's call the word input. This is a new tag that you're learning. Input is for when you want to say things. Input is followed by text. Is followed by type. You can say text here. You can say button. There's a lot of things to say, but mostly you're just going to say text or password. So let's show you. We don't need a name right now. But as you can see, that's how you end it. If we refresh, you can see we have a box on our left here that can input some text in. That's why it's called input. If I gave this a label, the label tag in HTML5 is how you give text to the front of a input. So they'll say, hey, if I want to say name here, because if I was making something from out of contact form, you can see it gives it the class of name. Alright? Now, here's something even cooler. If we wanted to make this say password, but you see when I type my password in, if I do type password in, it's going to show. But here's a cool thing. If you change text to password, you can see it's now hidden. This is called an input field. There's also one called date, which this computer cannot run. But there's also things called today color. See, they have a new thing called the color box in HTML5. You can choose the color. There's a type called, I think I'll type here real quick. Show you guys. Yeah, type text. Now let me show you what a text area is. So let's give this a label. Close the label. And we'll say text area. Now text area is brand new in HTML. You're able to do it by saying text area. You could still do text area if you wanted to. And you can see it'll give you a giant text area. But in HTML, to say a text area, all you do now is say input, say text area. Pretty simple, ain't it? And then you end the text area. As you can see, a text area has appeared on my screen. I can drag it to make the box bigger or smaller. Now I can enter some random text in here, and I could possibly submit it. To save some time, due to time's sake, I went ahead and added some classes. Now in the form, in order for this to really send, I also went ahead and added the submit button. A button class is really simple. You just type out the word button in between and then end the button tag, followed by this typing in whatever text you want. So it doesn't have to submit, it can say send. I want to make it say send. You can see I can do that. Now when this button is clicked, this form called send.php would be loaded up, also known as the button tag. And we add the method equals post. You can also say get, and we'll talk to a lot later. There's just one more thing I need to tell you about HTML, and then you can start learning it yourself. Okay, there's one final thing I gotta talk to you about. In HTML, there's things called divs and div IDs in classes. Div is basically a box. To show you how this works, I'm gonna give this item a color red and give it a width. Now this is some CSS classes. And you can see this is a box. That's exactly what HTML is. Alright, so this is what divs is. And you can give it a div ID. You usually see this on a website, div ID equals thing. Now before this video times out 1 second, you can also say class this. Basically it means you can put it inside of the CSS. Now in the next video, go to the next video and we'll do more.